Lesson 4.1, Video 1, Multiplying Monomials. So let's first get clear what a monomial is. A monomial, like it states with mono, meaning you have one thing. And that one thing can be a number, for example, 5. It could be a variable, for example, an x, or it could be a product of a number and one or more variables. So I could have 5x, or if I wanted to have another variable there, I could have 5xy, but we have a product, and that's the key here, of a constant or a number and a variable, or more than one variable. A constant, however, is a monomial, so 1, that it's a real number. For example, 5 is a constant. There's no variables with it. Or 10 is a constant. But if I had 10x, because of that variable, it's not a constant anymore. So that's not considered a constant because of the variable. Alright, so let's look at some rules that we need to come to terms with when we deal with monomials. And the first of which is product of powers. Now what it's stating here in this rule, and I'm just going to go right to this part, and that is that if we have two monomials being multiplied and they have powers, then to find out what the result is by their product is that we would add the exponents. Now we can only do this if the bases are the same, and by base I mean, in this case, the x's are the base. So if you have the same base, then you can add their exponents. For example, then in the next one, we have bases that are both 4, and we can add their exponents. Now, in this particular case, let's emphasize one thing. We are adding exponents. This one here is the longhand way of doing the problem, because 4 squared represents these two, and 4 cubed represents those 3. So powers mean you're going to have more than one of them being multiplied. So if you count these, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, so you get 4 to the 5th. So in comparison, the bottom step right here is the shortcut, or the shorthand way of doing the problem. So you can do it longhand or use the shortcut. In this case would be the powers rule. Our next one is a power to power rule. So again, before we had product of powers, which means they're multiplying the bases. Okay, and here we have power to power, which means we have a power being raised to another power. There's one problem in here that I have to fix. There should be a parenthesis right here. So we have x to the m raised to the nth power. And what they're saying here is that we will multiply powers. Or to be consistent with before, we will multiply exponents. Alright, so in this case we have 5 squared raised to the 3rd power. So the shortcut way is to take these two powers and multiply them, which gives us to the 6th. Now if I did it longhand, like we had up before, this power of 3 means I have 3 5 squareds. That's what this means. If I write that out longhand, we have 2 for each square. So here's the first one, here's the second one, and there's the third one. So together, you do indeed have 6 of them. And that represents the power to a power rule. So again, we have product of powers rule, which means they're multiplying bases, not the powers, which is kind of a bad way of writing that. And we have a power to power rule, which means you're taking a monomial that has an exponent and you're raising it to another power. And this ends lesson 4.1, video 1.